Sorry about that technical glitch. Sorry about that. There is some glitch. Give me 1 minute. Sorry about that technical glitch.
I thought I was getting double the welcome.
Well, sorry about that. There is some glitch. Give me 1 minute. Sorry about that technical glitch. Okay, here we are. 20 minutes live.
Double the welcome.
20 minutes live. Sorry about that. Okay, here we are. 20 minutes live. 20 minutes live. Just give me 2 minutes. There is some technical glitch. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, here we are. 20 minutes live. 20 minutes live. Just give me 2 minutes. There is some technical glitch. Just give me 2 minutes. I think it's fixed. Sorry about that. This is 20 minutes live. Welcome to all of you from India and around the world. Sorry about that initial glitch. It happens. Technology sometimes creates its own set of rules. I think it's fixed. Sorry about that. 20 minutes live comes to you every Thursday at 5 p.m. And today I'm delighted to have Asad Lalljee. Technology sometimes. Welcome to the show, Asad.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Essar Group, CEO of Avid Learning, a public programming initiative and creative platform under the Essar Group, and Curator, Royal Opera House, Mumbai. Welcome to the show, Asad. Asad brings several years of advertising, publishing, marketing, and business development experience, both in international and domestic markets. Prior to relocating to India, Asad worked for 14 years as one of the Mad Men advertising executives on New York's Madison Avenue. Asad was appointed curator of the newly restored Royal Opera House in 2016, and he has designed a robust program at Opera House. Our program, our 20 minutes live, is a simple and crisp program. I'll start asking Asad some questions, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comments, and I'll take up with Asad. So let me get going with the first question, Asad. Welcome to the show, firstly. In these times of global pandemic, where health is the main concern, what is the relevance of arts and culture?
Thank you, Ninad, for inviting me to your program. You know, it's always a pleasure interacting with you, especially you were the first person to support Marathi theatre at the Royal Opera House. You know, when I speak of arts and culture, I like using this statistic to set the stage. And according to a 2018 PwC report, the arts and culture has become one of the fastest growing sectors in the world, generating a global revenue of $2,250 billion and employing approximately 30 million people. Well, needless to say, post-COVID, that is going to change. But culture builds resilience, societies, consciousness, and compassion. It provides comfort, it provides inspiration, hope in this time of enormous anxiety and uncertainty. You know, the arts can be used as a tool for expression, as an outlet to help grapple with this new world order, which no one knows what it is at the moment. There's always been a necessity of culture for people and for communities. And when billions of people are physically separated from one another, culture kind of brings them together. And I just feel that in this time of crisis and isolation, the role of art becomes more central to our lives than we realize or acknowledge it. And it is a fact that there has been an explosion of arts and culture activities online, if you have seen. And the reason they are there is people are watching it. These are being presented by the custodians of the arts and culture world. And the reason why the cultural producers of the world are producing it, people are coming. Slowly and steadily, brands and sponsors are warming up also to the idea of it. I don't say embracing it, I said warming up. There are very interesting projects that are happening. You have CAM, the COVID Art Museum, which is the world's first museum of art born in the COVID quarantine. It's a birth of a new artistic movement. We at Avid Learning launched Avid Online, our online further learning campaign, which was a direct response to COVID-19. We launched on April 1st, 2020. And the objective was to enable our stakeholders and patrons like yourselves to engage with the breadth of the arts and to encourage this dialogue, this exchange, this between the creative communities. And it's been very successful, and I urge you all to check it out at some point of time. And similarly, subsequently, we launched a similar campaign for the performing arts for the Royal Opera House. So just to sum it up and answer your first question is, now than before, more than before, the arts and culture is imperative to our lives. Can't hear. You're on mute. You're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, Asad, I had some technical glitches, Asad. That's why I switched to my good old wired earphone. So now hopefully things are fine.
Old is gold.
Always go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we have started getting questions, but I want to ask you a couple of questions which are still in my mind.
Sure.
So these are times of heightened emotions, if I can put it that way.
Sure.
People are anxious, people are worried, all kinds of high emotions are going on. Does it lead to a phase of creativity in arts and culture? What is your view on that?
Definitely. The pandemic environment will and has heightened the need for more creativity. Connections are being made across the world. There's a collaborative system and spirit that's emerging. People are trying to revive the spirit of intimacy within the cultural ecosystem. Artists and art makers will take time. They need to reflect, they need to respond to this change. Avid has the series Artists Behind the Art, in which the artist actually introspects how their legacy, their practice, their work is going to change because of this period. Many artists have started to interact digitally. They've started showcasing digitally. Their futures probably will be. There's a new way of working, new way of thinking, new way of producing that is coming up. And this will be more evident actually in the post-pandemic world. It takes a little time to incubate. But if you really see in the pre-COVID time, countries that suffered from political turmoil, from human and civil rights abuse, from war, atrocities, those countries channel their emotions through creativity and creative production, and the work produced by those countries, the creativity, the seriousness of that work was just amazing. So I just see an analogy for this period. But the show must go on. People are going to create and produce work, and this will possibly be also treated as an archive, because historically we know that previously there wasn't one. Organizations like the Smithsonian are collecting coronavirus artifacts to document the pandemic. If you look historically at the city of Bombay, the architecture and the urban planning of Bombay was actually shaped by the bubonic plague in the late 1800s. And this in turn affected the arts of cinema and printmaking and painting with the likes of Raja Ravi Verma or Dada Sai Phalke. Now, again, so these atrocities did affect them, which affected the creative production. The MoMA was conceived during the Spanish flu. I lived in New York at that point of time during 9/11. The Tribeca Film Festival was a direct response to 9/11. It started post 9/11 and with the attempt of uplifting the spirit of the city, and has now become one of the most important platforms for in the independent film circuit. And in India we have Conflict has a museum, the consortium, Conflictorium, sorry. We have the Remember Bhopal Museum. And I just feel that in India, the migrant crisis, which has occurred due to the pandemic, is arguably a reality waiting to be made into history through some very, very deep and rich art production. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I said, finally, all glitches are fixed. I hope you don't mind if we stretch beyond the 20 minutes.
No, I love to talk.
So one question was, and it's connected to what you mentioned, about migrant labor and all these issues. Will artists collaborate across platforms, given the current state of heightened emotions? Do you think that will happen?
Artists already collaborated. I mean,
Right.
see, collaboration is not new. It's been around for a long time across industries, but especially in the arts, and especially I think artists also kind of they kind of enrich themselves with each other. That's why there are things like residencies. Collaborations are happening. There are so many happening online. Digital collaborations are rampant at the moment. You have residencies which are online right now. You have concerts which are being done, online. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of collaboration happening. Collaborative films are being made, and with technology, and some of it is edited in post, but most of it is done in real time. I joke. I say Zoom has become like a local phone call. As we were convenient, picking up the phone and calling someone, we are confident to actually have a Zoom call. I don't know whether you agree with that analogy or not, but I think
Sure.
collaboration is an important part of an artist's journey through their
Right.
trajectory of growth, essentially.
So I will take up the first question. I want to ask you some questions, but
Sure.
audience has started asking me questions, so maybe I'll take first one. And it's a very interesting question. Narayan Pasar is asking, survival is very critical now. Do you think how will artists survive for the next couple of months?
It's a difficult one, and you also have to define which artists. There are some artists who can afford to survive, and many of them who can't. I mean, I have heard the stories. I mean, it just makes you want to cry. I mean, some of them. And so there's a lot of help going out there, not compared to the West, okay, but India, there is. What I think is very encouraging and endearing is the artist community is coming together to lobby,
Right.
and kind of help each other. There are lots of group, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, all that fun stuff is happening. But there are a lot of platforms that are coming together. We at Opera House have supported a couple of them. So Adda was a campaign that was launched by Shubhaji and Anish to raise some funds, which we supported through the Royal Opera House. Sonjoy and Teamworks is doing this wonderful campaign called Art Matters. So all our campaigns are all our online campaigns at the Opera House. We use Art Matters as a plug to help raise awareness. So it's going to be difficult. Revenue is difficult, and there are a lot of these artists who are day laborers. I mean, they work for each day and they get paid for each day, and there's no work for them right now. So I think the fraternity is jumping in to help. I don't know. I can't speak about the government. I'm trying to be politically correct, but I don't know. That's another conversation.
Sure. So you did mention about embracing technology, and I want to push you a little bit on that point. You did
Okay.
mention about that. Will this crisis force change, which was maybe long overdue, not overdue? Will adoption of technology be the panacea for artists and actors? Is this, in short, the Netflix moment for arts and
Wonderful.
culture?
Wonderful question. See, the only constant in life is change, right? We remember that. So I have a different theory, and maybe people may not agree with me on this. But see, presenting the performing arts through technology is not new. Technology is around for many years, right? Some people have adopted early, some people haven't. Some people could afford to get technology into their lives, some people could not. But what has happened now is everyone's been forced to embrace technology to the best of their capacity, and they're doing so to whatever capacity they can. And I joked about Zoom calls, but when we started in this pandemic, people thought of a Zoom call as, oh, my data is not safe. Now people are not even questioning that, and they're just picking up the Zoom call essentially. Streaming platforms like Netflix has been part of our everyday life. Such like that, there are cultural arts and culture platforms being built. There's a platform in the UK called Marquee TV that we're trying to do a collaboration with, that's being built, which is like the Netflix of arts and culture. But what I call it the glocalizing of arts and culture, because what is happening is, just as Netflix gives you the best of the world, yeah, right? So the best institutions, the best museums, the best opera houses of the world are opening up their archive, they're opening up their paywalls, not charging and giving you the best of the best for free. So now here you have this plethora of choices. All you have to do is tune in, but you don't know what to choose. That's the problem, because there's so much. It's not curated content. Everything is available to you. And I think the digital space, what it's done is it has given artists and culture the opportunity to stay relevant, to stay connected. As you mentioned, collaborative projects, virtual projects, other things like AR and VR. Those things have been around for a while. We just had a talk with Bose, one of the founders of the Kochi Biennale, on new forms of engagement in the arts. And this is going to be one of the forms of consuming art, but it has been around. Google culture, everyone's, oh, Google culture. That's been around for close to a decade, and we're fortunate the Opera House sneaked in there earlier this year. So, with this online explosion, there has been a technology as part of it. It will evolve. People will make it slowly and steadily, will make it part of their consumption. But it's not something that's, I don't think it's that new in per se. I think, there's a flip side to it, which I'd love to talk about. An arts and culture consumption is so rooted in the physical and the sensorial, right? Technology let you slowly, deeply engage with it. It let you hear the sounds, it let you hear the visuals, but what it will take you is the physical engagement. See, I don't think it could ever replace the USP of going and sitting in a live performance and actually seeing with your own eyes the artist or the talent. And from the flip side, from the artist side also, I've spoken to many artist friends. They said, dude, for us to perform, I need to look at my audience. That's how I know how to start performing. I need to look at my tablachi sitting next door, my sitar player sitting that side. That's how I perform. To do it online is wonderful. It's a great, great, great stopgap for now. But it's not a long term. It's not the only solution. I have this wonderful benchmark, which I think will kind of work. It's a utopian idea, is that if ever we could monetize and market the arts and culture as we do to a sports event, right? That will be the time where it becomes financially viable, it becomes engaging, it offers replay, it's got that experiential thing. So can you imagine if that happens through technology, then it puts arts and culture into that segment that it really should belong in, according to me. So.
Great. Let's hope it happens. And let's see what's the impact long term. So coming again to technology, Jignesh has asked a question, and maybe I'll add to that, is while web-based concerts are doing well currently, what do you think will be the shape of concerts and live events in times to come? So in simple words, will live events be back?
So I have to say yes, because I firmly want to believe in it, because I want my opera house to be back. No, but I'm just joking. See, I'll just quote you some figures. In 2019, the live event market in India was 8,300 crores, right? And was estimated by 2022, it would be 12,200 crores. Now, between Jan and April of 2020, the industry found that it had made a loss of 40,000 crores, and the number was growing. And this is an ENY report, it's not my figures. Um, so, the industry is a large industry, right? They're going to lobby and they're going to do whatever they have to make it come back to life. And it's got to. I want it to come back. Imagine if you have to spend the rest of your life watching your arts and culture on this. I mean, it's a very sad situation. But one thing that online has actually done, okay, it's given arts and culture the respect and adoption it deserves online, right? It's given people in the business are trying to figure out the right models, the right formats, the right sustainability, all that fun stuff, which no one has really figured it out as of now to make it sustainable and viable. You know, I really believe that it's given awareness and it's given access and larger audience. It's actually helped the arts and culture industry. But for live events, there will be a new way of consuming. There will be a new way of live events. People will go. But again, if you go to an auditorium, how many seats on the left and right do you have empty? Now, if you have to do that, how is a venue going to actually cover its costs? How are they
Sure.
going to be profitable? What are
True.
the rules? What is the government saying about it? When are people actually wanting to go out and put themselves? I barely get into an elevator to avoid people. Where am I going to go
True.
and sit in a crowded venue with, whatever, parameters you have? We at the Royal Opera House are putting in processes into place to welcome in the new order, but no one knows what that new order is. But my ray
Right.
of hope is this analogy, which you think about. See, before COVID, we all had Netflix, we had Amazon Prime, we had Hotstar, but we still went to the movie theater, right? So I think what it's going to be a dual mode, incorporating digital into the live events, including things like social distancing, including all the parameters it's going to be a mix of both. So I frankly feel yes, live is going to come back, but it's going to come back in a different way.
So we have one question. Viewers, if you have a question, please go and ask. We will. I'm extending it by 5-7 minutes because initially we had some glitches, so we couldn't start on time. So because of this kind of present mood, do you think it will lead to a dystopian kind of writing arts in this present moment? Uh,
I mean, it's
will it
going
lead
to.
to? Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I'm not a writer, but I think the work. It depends. No one has. I mean, people have seen work that's coming out, right? And when you look at, and I mentioned that in my earlier part, when you look at crises and situations, the work coming out is very strong and very powerful. Now, again, one man's meat is another man's poison. It depends how you take it. Maybe and which generation you're writing for, because you can't be everything to everyone, right? So yeah, the work is going to be different, which is only natural, given what I mean. Natural, bad word, but only natural given what one has gone through in this period, and depending on and again, one has to actually see the work to comment. But yeah, it's going to be different. I think it's going to be powerful, because that's what basically atrocities and human tragedies do. Most of the work coming out of that is pretty deep and sometimes dark. So yeah.
So Vinay Jhawar is asking a very topical question. I don't know how you're going to respond to it. Uh, TikTok is banned,
Oh God.
uh, and he's saying that it had led to a lot of people showcasing their talent and the art or whatever. Uh, uh, won't it affect the life of a lot of these, particularly in tier two, tier three cities? A lot of talented people did find it. One can have one
Yeah.
views on it, but
Sure.
that was a genuine outlet for a lot of
I
talented
agree.
people.
I agree. I mean, I barely got onto TikTok just to see what was happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, interesting. But everyone said, oh, Snapchat is the coolest thing, Pinterest is the coolest thing. So I mean, technology is changing so fast. Now everyone says, oh, Facebook has had its time, it's only Insta. So there are so many ways of showcasing talent. I read the headline today, because of TikTok, India is rushing to get the next alternative out. So, we are living in a time where innovation is there, and people will create the next platform. I mean, Yes, in the interim, people are suffering. I read those headlines today in today's papers, like 55,000 followers. What should I do next? Luckily, I had no followers there, so I have no problem. But I think there will be the next, whether it's a hybrid of YouTube and Insta Live, I don't know. But there should be another alternative coming.
So here's an interesting question from Azbeen Mistry. She's asking, there are so many people who have lost their livelihood, but at the same time, people have found new ways of performance. What advice will you give to young artists, person who's just entering the field of arts and culture?
See, people who are in the field of arts and culture are driven by passion. The first thing, they're not driven by livelihood to start with. Okay, I just did it. I mentioned I did a talk earlier this week, and I just said the same thing. I said you've got to believe in something, and you just have to stick to it. You just have to work hard, and everything pans out at the end. At this point, because the situation is it's quite bleak for many cases. But at the end of it, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We've got to believe in that because that's the only way we can all survive. So just keep at it and keep working, keep producing, keep reaching out to people. And when you put out good stuff, things come back to you. It's the way the universe works.
Sure. So one question is on, I think we'll take last 2-3 questions. We have already overshot because you couldn't start on time. But museums have started adopting to technology, virtual tours and all. What do you think is that, that way they have expanded their reach, people across the world able to see it.
Sure.
So in a sense, they have embraced it. What's your view on it? Obviously it's a good trend, but will it last or it's a temporary thing?
See, museums have been embracing technology for a long time. The larger museum, the richer museums have embraced it long ago. They had, all their virtual shows, their 3D, they've been on Google Culture, they've done all that fun stuff. I think also one has to examine what the museum means to you in today's day and age, and what it's come to stand for. And when museums realize what their purpose in civil society is, and how they're going to meet that, I think embracing technology is fantastic. I think many of the museums are doing a wonderful job doing virtual tours, doing this programming. I myself collaborate with every museum in Bombay, to be very honest, and they're doing such great work, especially the CSNBS. I just feel that, at the end of the day, you have to stay engaged and connected with your audience, and you have to build your younger stakeholders who are going to be your future audiences of tomorrow. So, I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, audience building, education, I think that's the way, and sharing of information and giving people access. But to be honest, even here, it can never take away actually physically going to a museum and seeing a piece of art or artifact. It's just a wonderful substitute in the interim.
It will never replace. It can only complement or add. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
So let me ask the last 2 questions and a little bit, outside of this. So suppose you get some magical powers. Tonight you sleep. Early morning, Asad has magical powers. You can do whatever you want because of those powers to change the arts and culture scene in Bombay. What is the top thing you'll do? Top 1 or 2 things which you'll do? You have magical powers. You can do anything.
So, I'm always fascinated by the art, with opera house especially, but, looking at Broadway or looking at the West End. So the fantasy would be to have a similar West End or a Broadway in Mumbai. And if you see where opera house is located, strategically, how the gharanas and the old music, the music fraternity live, and all those small theaters, there's so many of them in derelict, just desperate shape. They become like C-grade movie theaters at the end of it, if at all, if they're open. So I would restore all of them and make them a cultural hub, and have our own West End in South Bombay.
Okay, great. Hopefully it will happen. Own West End in Bombay.
I don't have the word. Give it to me.
So let me end with the last question, a personal question, if I may. Madison Avenue to Mumbai. Why did you do that?
Madness. I'm just kidding. It was a personal choice.
Right.
I mean, each person has a journey and has periods of their life when they want to accomplish something. And Madison Avenue was a goal I went after, and I was fortunate enough to live my dream. And Mumbai was for another reason, and I stumbled into another dream, which is working within the arts and culture. So the dream lives on. It's just another dream.
Good. Any closing thoughts? I'm going to wind this down after your thought.
Well,
Any closing
thank you,
comments?
thank you for having me. And it's a wonderful program you're doing. I've been following a couple of your episodes, and thank you, audience, for those wonderful questions. And always nice chatting. And I really believe that one of my things, which is our tagline also at Avid, is that learning never stops. Life is full of, you have to keep learning, relearning, unlearning, relearning, and it's just a continuous process of and that's what life's all about, essentially. But thank you for having me.
Learning never stops. That's a good one. Thank you, Asad, for joining us
Pleasure.
at 20 Minutes Live today. Thank you, viewers, for seeing us today. Remember, 100x presents 20 Minutes Live every Thursday, 5 p.m. Thank you, Asad, for being here, and sorry for
Pleasure.
the glitches at the start
No,
of the
no.
program.
Perfectly all
It
right.
was wonderful chatting with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.